A flight to remember kindness across generations. The cabin lights flickered faintly as passengers settled into their seats on Flight 247 from Washington, D.C. to Newark. Among them was Barron Trump, now a tall, reserved teenager, seated in first class. He kept to himself, thumbing through a hardcover book, avoiding the occasional glances from passengers who recognized him. Across the aisle in economy sat an elderly man in his late 70s, his military jacket adorned with faded patches and medals. His presence commanded quiet respect, and whispers about his service filled the cabin. As the plane prepared for takeoff, a commotion broke out in the back. The veteran's seatmate had become upset, insisting on a different seat. The veteran, apologetic but visibly uncomfortable, tried to calm the situation. Barron, noticing the disturbance, pressed the call button for a flight attendant. "Excuse me," he said softly when she arrived. "Can I switch seats with the gentleman in the military jacket?" The attendant blinked, surprised. Passengers in first class glanced up. Their curiosity piqued. A woman nearby leaned toward Barron. "You don't have to do that. You paid for this seat." Barron simply smiled. "Some people deserve it more." The attendant returned moments later, her voice tinged with admiration. "He said he'd be happy to switch." Barron grabbed his bag and made his way to the back of the plane, ignoring the whispers and subtle phone cameras pointed his way. When he reached the veteran, the elderly man looked up, confused. "Are you sure, young man? You don't have to do this for me." "I want to," Barron replied, extending a hand. "Thank you for your service. Please take my seat." The veteran hesitated, then stood, shaking Barron's hand firmly. "Well, thank you. That's mighty kind of you." As the veteran settled into the plush first-class seat, the cabin buzzed with murmurs of admiration. Barron, now in economy, opened his book again, seemingly unfazed by the attention. The flight attendants offered the veteran a complimentary drink and a warm blanket, explaining, "The young man said you should have this seat." The veteran smiled faintly. "It's been years since I've been treated like this." The plane reached cruising altitude, and the atmosphere shifted. The veteran, sipping his water, turned to the passenger next to him, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes. "I have to say something," he began. "That young man who gave me this seat, his family saved my life once." The woman leaned in, intrigued. "What do you mean?" The veteran adjusted the Purple Heart pin on his lapel and sighed. "Decades ago, during the Vietnam War, I was injured and lost. When I returned stateside, I had no direction, no purpose. I ended up in New York, struggling to survive. One day, I met a man outside a diner who saw me struggling. He didn't just hand me $1. He sat with me, listened to my story, and gave me a place to live and a job. That man was Fred Trump, Donald Trump's father." The woman's eyes widened. Nearby passengers, overhearing, leaned closer. The veteran continued, his voice steady but emotional. "Fred didn't owe me anything, but he helped me rebuild my life. He told me, 'You serve this country, it's the least we can do.' I've never forgotten those words, and today his grandson gave me a gift I'll never forget." The story rippled through the cabin, sparking conversations about kindness, service, and gratitude. Passengers shared their own stories, connecting over the power of small acts of generosity. The veteran's revelation had transformed the flight into something far more profound. As the plane began its descent, the flight attendant approached Barron in economy. "I wanted to let you know," she said softly, "the gentleman you gave your seat to shared something extraordinary about your family. Would you like to hear it?" Barron looked up, curious. "Sure." "Years ago, your grandfather, Fred Trump, helped him when he was at his lowest point. He said your grandfather gave him a place to live and a job, expecting nothing in return. Today, you did something for him that reminded him of that kindness." Barron paused, his expression softening. "That's something, isn't it?" The attendant smiled. "It is. I thought you should know." When the plane landed, the veteran made his way to the economy section, where Barron was gathering his belongings. He extended a hand. "Young man, I wanted to thank you face to face. What you did today brought me full circle. Your family has a history of kindness, and you've carried that forward. Never forget how much these moments matter." Barron shook his hand firmly. "I didn't do anything special, sir. You deserved it." The cabin was silent, passengers watching with rapt attention. Some had tears in their eyes, others wore thoughtful smiles. As they disembarked, many paused to thank Barron or offer words of gratitude to the veteran. The connection between the two men, generations,